how do you feel about the community that's kind of, come around and supported you
Yeah, well, I
in
mean,
that?
yeah, it's amazing. I mean, specifically Supernatural, the Supernatural sort of fan base, and it's people don't really know how big it is and how supportive they are. It's this unique thing where we have these conventions, and all the actors go to the conventions, and the fan base is like a family. Like they're very cool, very supportive, and it's been good. It's been a really good experience. I mean, when this thing that we'll get to in a sec
Hmm.
happened, like they were all very supportive, and it's nice to have that. It's nice to have people rooting for you, and for me, the sci-fi world in general, like I kind of by accident, I think I've done just a handful of sci-fi shows, from
Yeah.
Threshold, and
You said yes.
I said yes. I said yes. Yeah, like Threshold, and I guess Alias, and through the years I've done all these some sci-fi stuff, and then Supernatural. Um, yeah, so it's just one of those shows. It's still in the air. It's going into its 10th season next year.
Is it really?
Yeah, and it's
Wow.
on the air really because these fans are vocal, and because of social media, and now people, they have a voice.
I think that's one of the biggest shifts is seeing like the niche market availability of when you have true fans
Yeah,
that are working and rooting for you. Like you said,
yeah,
like they're on your side and they're able to keep a show going
yeah,
10 seasons.
yeah, exactly. And things like Twitter are pretty amazing when you think about it. You can reach out to people, fans that you're fans of, and a lot of times they'll write you back. Like you can actually communicate, or at least feel like you're
I
in
think it's
touch
an
with them.
amazing tool for
Yeah,
that immediate interaction.
yeah. So like I just got back from Vegas, where there was a Supernatural convention, and it was 2,000 people, and just rabid fans. It's so excited, and all the stars of the show were there, and my character was popular in the show. Just was kind of popular in that world. My character was basically became God on the show, so it was like a popular character for that world, and so that's why I haven't been on for like 4 or 5 seasons, but I
Right.
just keep going back to the
Sure.
conventions, and so yeah, it's a fun little thing. We travel the world, sort of supporting the show. It's just a fun kind of icing to
Right.
that job.
Well, so you kind of hinted at it. Let's talk a little bit about it. So you're at one of the conventions
Yeah, I was at a
last fall.
yeah, I was at a convention in Toronto in October, so about 5 months ago.
Okay.
And the conventions are always exhausting. They're very exhausting. We work really hard, um, and it's a lot of socializing, and you're going really late, and you're drinking a bit at night. Not crazy, but it adds to the fatigue.
Sure.
So it was Sunday, and I was tired, and I had a bit of a headache, but that was pretty normal. And I it's at like 2 in the afternoon. My friend Richard Spate Jr., who's an actor on the show, who we've become really good friends, really through these conventions, but we are together a lot. We're paired a lot together.
Right.
He's a lot like me. He's a good guy, and him and I were in the green room talking to someone else, a friend of his, and I started to say something to him, and I couldn't, like, when you're trying to think of a word, like right now, I'm trying to think of a word, but it never comes.
Hmm.
It was like caught in the twilight zone or something. I was like, you know, and he's going, what? And it went on for a
You're waiting for
yeah,
it, right?
and for comically like a long time. He thought I was doing a bit or something. He was like, what are you doing? Like we laughing, and I was like, I couldn't think of anything. I couldn't think of what I wanted to say, and that lasted for a couple minutes. And in my brain, you're just kind of going, what is going on? This is really weird. Anyway, I just kind of let it go. And then 5 minutes later, I was able to talk again. And we went outside, just him and I was like, I was so weird. I felt like I was having a stroke. And we laughed. And
I
that,
actually said those
I
words.
said those words, and we laughed. And we both agreed that it was because we had headaches, and we took Advil, and we took 2 Advil, but they were like this extra strength Canadian Advil. And so we realized we'd taken like 800 milligrams of Advil, and that was too much. And he was like, no, I'm feeling a little freaky too. I'm feeling a little buzzy from that Advil. So we determined, oh, it must have been
Right.
the Advil. It was,
The Canadian meds
yeah,
always
Canadian
get you.
meds that really got me. So I'm tripping out on Advil. So then I was fine. I went back on stage. I had a Q&A on stage. Um, and then we do pictures, and that was fine. And then we do autographs. So it was the end of the day. I'm signing autographs. And Richard was done. And so he's like, hey, man, we're going out to a bar. Me and a couple of guys that are the leads on the show. Come meet us after. I said, cool, text me. So halfway through the autograph, someone said, "Hey, you mentioned you were married. When did you get married? What's your anniversary?" And I couldn't answer her. All of a sudden, it was back again. I was like, "Oh, it's happening again. Oh no!" So I couldn't answer her. I kind of mimed like, "Wait here. When I'm done, I'll answer you." Was kind of what my mime was.
Right.
So she's waiting over here as I continue to think, and everyone who tried to talk to me, I just kind of smiled and hugged them. I just didn't know what to do. And you have these people all weekend who are your they call them handlers, but they're like your assistants or whatever that are
Sure.
making sure you're okay. And they just said later they just thought I was like tired of talking. I just shut down, But that was really not what was happening. And anyway, about halfway through the line, I go into the bathroom. I'm sweating. I'm like, what is going on? I thought I was having a panic attack.
Okay.
You're so tired, and everyone's coming at you, and they all are just like, they know you and you don't know them. It's a very overwhelming experience, and I thought maybe that's what it was. So I came back out, finally finished the line. They're walking me back up to my room, and I'm kind of miming and sort of stuttering and basically saying to the girls, "I'm not well, and I don't know why,
Right.
but I'm sick. I don't know what's wrong." And in my mind, I was thinking we had some kind of like a virus or something. I was like, "Is there a virus that affects your nerves? This is going to turn out to just be a virus, and there's going to be antibiotic, and won't this be a funny story?"
Right. That'll be it.
Yeah.
A shot and I'm good.
Yeah. So I went up to the room. I invited them in my room, and they're kind of not supposed to sort of fraternize with us, which is so stupid because they're friends of ours by now. I know these girls, but they came in the room and kind of shyly and were there, and I was like, and I must have freaked them out. They're like, "I don't know what you want," and I was like, I kind of mimed them. Never mind, I've got it. So they left. I shut the door. I'm by myself now. I sat down in bed. The phone rings, and I pick it up. It's my friend Richard. And he's out with the fellas. And he's like, "We're at the bar, come on." And I was like, ugh. And, I couldn't talk on the phone. He was like, "What's wrong with you?" And I was like, I don't know. And he was like, "Oh, you probably just need to have some food. So come on out." I said, no. And he was like, "All right, you know what? Stay there. I'm gonna come back and get you." So he gets in the cab and comes back, which turns out was like the MVP move of the whole night.
Right.
He gets into a cab and comes back for me. He
Yeah.
comes and turns out those girls are outside of my room. There's some phone calls being made. What to do. So he comes in and he's like, "What's going on?" Long story short, he kind of assesses me. He has me call another friend of ours named Misha, who's on the show. And Misha talked to me, and Misha said then to Richard, "You need to go to the emergency room." Richard's like, "Hey, man, let's go to the hospital." And I was like, "Nah." It's the last thing I want to do.
Yeah.
So he takes me to the hospital in a car where they drove us. And we got to the hospital, which turns out was a stroke hospital. Like they have a specialty stroke wing where they teach doctors on strokes and stuff. So it was Canada. There was like no one in the emergency room. They had never gotten in the hospital so quick. So weird. And there was no like credit card. I mean, that was a whole nother weird thing. Being, I did have to pay for it since I'm American.
Right.
But they're like, "So this is going to cost you money." That was like a weird thing for them that I'm going to pay for it.
You're like,
yeah, that's what. Yeah, usually. So it's like staying at a hotel. They charge like literally I had to pay the bill when I left. Yeah, which is a whole nother thing. So anyway, I got in. They gave me a CAT scan at that time, and before I knew it, there was a team of doctors around me. I remember talking to one doctor while we were waiting for the results. I'm like, I don't know how I said it. I'm miming. I'm like, virus. I'm pointing myself, virus, and he's like, "I don't think so, man. I don't think it's a virus.
That's not.
Never heard of that kind of virus." So then there's this team of doctors around me with the results, and they're like, "You've got a blood clot in your brain. You're having a stroke." And
so what was your thought in that moment? Like, had time kind of slowed down for you at this point, or was it all rushing by really quickly?
No, slowed down. I was very aware, acutely aware of what was going on.
Okay.
But
because now it's not a virus. It's not the Advil.
Right.
It becomes real.
Yeah. I thought I was being punked. I mean, I was honestly kind of giggling inside when he said this. It was like, this is ridiculous. I was guessing that's denial, right. But I was like, this is silly. I was on stage 2 hours ago, and right. here I am, and you're telling me not only am I having a stroke, but he said you're about to close the window where we can treat it. We need to give you a clot buster shot, which, by the way, there's a 7% chance that this will kill you. This shot. So I need to know from you, are you cool with that? Can we give you this shot? And I need to know right now. And it wasn't a very friendly message. And I was like, that was my, honestly, I was like, what? Now there's a 7% chance I could not live through the night.
Yeah.
And I just go, Molly, because that's my wife's name. And he's like, who's Molly? And Richard said, that's his wife. And he's like, you don't have time to call Molly. It's not about Molly. It's about you. I need to know right now. I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah.
So I said yes, and they gave me the shot. And, I was that was it. My carotid artery had split, and that's what caused this blood clot in my brain and affected my speech. And I had what they call aphasia, which is like, when you know the word, you know what you want to say, you know who you're talking to, but you just can't form the words. So I went into intensive care and for a couple of days where it got kind of worse before it got better.
All right.
They'd wake me up on the hour to make sure I wasn't dying from that medicine. But it stopped the bleeding, it stopped the clotting, and it dispersed it a little bit, and it did what it needed to do. And I had some paralysis in my tongue, and it took me a long time to get words back. And had speech therapy for a while, but
How long were you in Canada?
10 days.
10
I was in the
days.
hospital for 10 days.
All right.
Yeah, which
Right.
again, that was a whole weird experience. And you're in a room. They moved me out of intensive care and into a room where I had like a change of roommates. I had like 4 different roommates while I was there because they keep coming in and out, different people.
Right.
That was a whole weird experience too.
No
But,
private rooms then.
yeah, no private rooms.
Yeah. And so then you flew back here.
Yeah, I flew back 10 days later with my wife who'd come up
Okay.
to see me. My wife and one of my best friends stayed with me in the hospital or
Yeah.
in Canada. And I came back 10 days later and basically, told myself I'd take until I wouldn't do anything until 2014. No work, no acting. Let's just take 2 months to try to get better.
Yeah.
Did a lot of speech therapy. My kids helped a lot, just quizzed me on words and stuff. I mean, and as at its worst, I couldn't say my wife's name. It got to the point after I got the medicine where it got so bad I was, I could not speak at all.
Yeah.
I could only grunt. And so I couldn't say my wife's name when she got there the next day.
Now, in those moments, did you kind of have the similar, I don't know, hope from your 20s where you weren't despairing? You were just like, all right, it sucks now, but it's going to get better. Like, I'm on my way out.
It's funny. People ask me in that moment, were you like worried that this is the way it's going to be from now on? How am I going to live my life? And I, honestly, and I think this is a good thing, I was so in the moment. I'm so not an in the moment guy. I'm always thinking 10 steps ahead and all the other things and that I have to do. And you know what I mean? That conversation I just had and all that. I was thinking, how do you say chair? I mean, my job was just in the moment. They wake me up on the hour and say, show me pictures of a chair, a feather, a hammock, and I couldn't say anything. And so my focus was like, when I was awake, was like, how do you say that word? It was so just in the moment. My new challenge was just how to say what that is.
Yeah.
So that I was just so in the moment of just how to say the word my eyes were focused on, how to communicate that I was thirsty, that I'm tired, that my head hurts, or whatever it was that I wanted to say. It was very in the moment. I really didn't think about anything else for about those 10 days.
Yeah.
Till I got back out in the real world.
Now, has that carried on for you?
No.
Or do you feel like you jumped right back into like, oh, what was I saying?
In a weird way, it's like I don't miss having aphasia. I don't miss having a stroke and feeling like I might die. But I miss that I was able to just stop and be in the moment and think about nothing but myself for a couple weeks.
Yeah.
Everything was taken care of. Everything has to be taken care of.
Mm-hmm.
Cancel all meetings, cancel all auditions, and just be alive. And I kind of miss that kind of cocoon kind of feeling.
Sure.
Now I'm kind of back.
You're back.
And like I said, the world doesn't take exception.
Sure.
It's not any easier. So no, it's just kind of back. I feel like I'm at 90% now.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm well enough to be back in the game. And
How was it? You mentioned something about your kids and them like kind of quizzing you. How was that role reversal?
It was fun for them. I mean, they loved it. And, what was hardest for them is when I was gone and they knew something was wrong.
Yeah.
And I have to leave a lot for work. And so they're used to that. But this they knew was different. And when I got home, they wept. And they
Oh,
don't normally do that. When I come home, they're like, Daddy's home, but they were
yeah.
like crying. They were worried. And
Sure.
that was really
Well,
tough.
they pick up on everything,
They know.
from everybody.
They know. And so, yeah, no, and they loved the role reversal. Was super fun, and I was into it. I was like, great, they would. I remember one of the first thing I got home, and I kept thinking at every moment, at every week, I kept thinking like, oh, I'm back to normal. I remember driving home from the airport when I came back from Toronto and thinking, oh, I'm back. It's good. I'm good. And like I so wasn't good, especially now thinking then like I could barely talk. And remember my son said, "What's that card game we play?" And he was talking about Uno, and. And I couldn't remember the game Uno. And I remember thinking like, oh boy,
Oh, this
it's
is
still there. The face is still there. And even now, there are times. I mean, if I get tired, I was asking our friend Norton, our drummer in Loud
yeah.
and Swain, for the tambourine the other day, and I couldn't think how to say tambourine. So it still happens now. I'm like, hey man, can you hand me the uh, uh, And it's the weirdest thing. It's like someone just punched you in the stomach. It's like the weirdest
Yeah.
thing. All of a sudden, you're like, your brain's just because there's a part of my brain that died, and it's black and still is. If you
Really?
look at the MRI, yeah,
Okay.
it doesn't heal in the cells. They just make new cells and they rewire. So my brain kind of had to rewire
Just
itself.
run around it
Yeah.
effectively.
So it's just amazing, really.
It's incredible. I mean, through all I've learned through kind of my own personal journey through the brain is just the incredible, it's supernatural magic to me at this point. Like
It
I
is.
really, and to most people who study it.
Yeah. Even the neurologists were like,
Yeah,
sometimes we just don't know. And you're like, but you're an actor. You study the brain. Like, yep. And we just don't
we,
know.
we don't know.
Why this happened to you? I don't know. Maybe it was in your genes. I don't know. But maybe something happened. They think that maybe someone that weekend picked me up on stage and turned me upside down as a joke.
Hmm.
It's kind of like gave me a loving hug, but then upside down, like I want to do. I kind of like getting thrown around sometimes.
Sure.
But I work out like I do. I go upside down a lot. I do handstands and stuff like that. So
Uh-huh.
there's no reason that shouldn't be able to do that with me. But they think that might have jostled the tear in my. Why we don't know.
Right. What was the susceptibility to
Yeah,
that?
right.
Or now, when we talked briefly before the show, like, how are you doing with the psychology of that? Like the why and like, I know for me, I had this moment where I think everybody immediately has this why me, and super quickly after I had that, I had the why not me moment, where I was like, well, why not me? I hear about this happening to other people. I've read about it. You know, why not me?
I think I'm just now entering in the why not me mode because I've been in why me. I mean, like I said, at the first it was just getting through it. The reality of healing yourself is really just everything just down in this, just you and yourself, just getting better, learning how to say words. Once I got back home, and I'm just lying around trying to get better and pissed that this happened to me.
Right.
I'm looking at the TV or I'm watching a movie and I'm thinking, why didn't it happen to that guy? Why
Yeah.
did it have to happen to me? Here as a working actor like I am, like you're constantly sort of struggling to move forward, to keep my road going forward, and this is quite a roadblock, and you see everyone else still moving forward. And I'm like, well, why the f did this happen to me and not in a jokey sense, like why Keith Richards? Why is he? Why could have happened? You know what I mean? He's like
Right.
80 and has lived 1,000 lives, and like what I mean? Like I've lived a pretty healthy life. There's nothing you can point to. I've got like a few bad habits, but they're not crazy extreme.
Sure.
Um, so yeah, it's I don't know, it's weird. So yeah, and then I was like, but then just lately, at the convention this last week, and I told people I had a stroke and kind of told the story, and it was amazing how many people came up and said that either they had some kind of stroke or they know someone who had a stroke who had a story to tell. Everyone has a
Yeah.
story to tell. And that's when you realize, well, maybe it's not so accidental. And just now, I mean, literally this week, I'm thinking there's a reason that I have this story to tell.
Yeah. I have a similar experience where you're a little hesitant to tell people, I think, whether it's just I don't want to talk about it, or whether it's, what are they going to think of me? Am I less because of this? Um, and I don't even know that you're necessarily more. You're the same.
Yeah.
Um, but your perception of the rest of the world around you, I think, is what shifts.
Yeah. It's like never to be the same again.
Yeah.
I really do feel like my life is before the stroke and after the stroke. It just is, and it will always be that way. And at first that sounded like a bad thing, like, wow, my life will never be the same again. Felt kind of doomed at first. And
Hmm.
just now I'm thinking, wow, my life will never be the same again. I'm lucky in a way.
Yeah.
The days are different.
Sure.
And that can be a good thing if you shift it
I mean,
right.
it can inform, I think the way you approach anything, your
Hmm.
kids, your career,
Yes.
you know,
Yep. Everything. So yeah, like I said, I know it's 5 months out, so I'm still learning. I'm still formulating what the story is, but that's really the stage I'm at right now, is that figuring that out, like, oh wow, there's a
yeah.
reason,
No,
and
I'm really curious to see kind of where it takes you. I mean, you
yeah,
mentioned briefly about us. You have in your mind a story about this you kind of want to tell,
yeah,
and
yeah,
how to make that happen.
yeah. And for a while, I was caught up in that, even like, when I got back into auditioning again in like January and February, I was like, okay, it should be different. This should be different, right? Everyone said you're going to be different, so it's different, right? And nothing was different. It's the same. Auditions are the same. It's all the same. Same ups, same downs,
Hmm.
and I'm realizing, no, that's not it. But I do think this is exciting new road for me,
Yeah.
and I'm just now taking the exit. So who knows what it will lead.
Well, I have two questions. One, you just brought it up, and it's something that I think artists of all kinds deal with, but I think actors especially. And I'm kind of curious to hear your take on this. It sparked at me rejection. Um, and this, I guess your whole thing could be rejection from, creation at large. Like, it's how
Right.
you're feeling about your,
Yeah.
health issue.
Yeah.
But auditioning,
Yeah.
like, how did you build the resilience to handle that over and over again?
Wow, man. It's a constant struggle. It is. I mean, some people are better at auditioning than others, but I don't think anyone would say it's easy. It's really hard. And I think some people are better salesmen. I know some actors that I think are better at auditioning don't enjoy the job as much as they enjoy the audition,
Huh.
because they're good at selling themselves. For me, someone sort of, neurotic as I am, the audition can be a really grueling thing. And so it's a constant, it's a constant struggle. I mean, definitely I've developed a thick skin. Um, but as an artist, it never feels good for someone to go, no, I'm picking this painting over your painting. You know,
Yeah.
that person, that model over you as a model. You know, or that actor over you. It's never easy, and it takes therapy and and having some people in your life who love you and know you, stuff like that. You build strength from it. If you believe in God, it takes that. If you know there are different ways, and for me, it's a constant, meditation and everything, just to keep stay in the now and be okay with yourself, and be okay that no matter where you are, that's where it's at. And I'm a student of that, and I'm still, and I will always be, a learner when it comes to that. Um, at the same time, it's that very struggle that keeps the fire going. If it was like,
Yeah.
nah, it's easy, nah, I'm kind of bored with it, or whatever, you know what I
Right.
mean?
No, I think it would.
It's still, when I get an audition, my heart goes, "Pup, pup, 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 pup." Okay. Just when the email comes in from my agent, I'm like, okay, I have an audition. All right,
All right.
let's get going. But that's a good thing in the end. You want to be a little nervous.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never not been nervous, and that's good.
On your best auditions, do you feel like you over prepared or under prepared?
It's always better to prepare. I always try to prepare a lot, be really off book with the lines.
Hmm.
Um, but my best auditions, I was in a good emotional state.
Hmm.
And sometimes that happens because of just things you can't control. Like there's no one else in the waiting room because that can really throw you off. There are a whole bunch of other dudes in the waiting room. You look around like, oh my God, that guy's going to get it. He looks just like this guy, this
Right.
part. So there's things like, I'll come in, I'm the last one, there's nobody there, and I get right in, and sometimes it just feels perfect that way.
Feels good.
And sometimes it's just really your own mindset that you're in this really great place and you're excited about what you're going to show them. You kind of put it before you even get in the room. You think, this is going to go well. I can just feel this is going to go well. And you go in and it does.
Is that something you learned, or like visualization, like something you learned or thought about, or just?
Yeah, I mean, I think someone a few years ago was giving me advice, and they were like, put yourself in the room before you get there and imagine it going really well.
Mhm.
Imagine them wanting it to go well,
Yeah.
rather than being against you. And and I try to use that for sure. And and sometimes it's just like some roles are better for you than other roles. I go out for a lot of different types of guys, and the ones that I've gotten, I was the right person to play that part, or at least how they envisioned that part.
Sure.
They envisioned it like I envisioned it, and so there's a lot of times you can't control that.
All right.
So as long as if I walk out of the room and I think I did the best I could do, I was prepared as I could be, I was as relaxed as I could be, I wouldn't have changed a thing. Then I can feel pretty good about it no matter what. And then 2 days later, the phone doesn't ring and you don't get it, and you're like, what the? What? I was perfect. I did everything right. But again, that keeps that's like, I always think about athletes because I'm a big sports fan. I always think about like, oh, if it doesn't go as well, I take solace when like my favorite baseball player doesn't have a good game. It's a horrible game.
Right.
Commits 2 errors and, has 0 for 4, and that happens to the best of them.
Sure.
And like, so that, or if I think sometimes I got a base hit, but wasn't a home run, and
So you go with the sports analogies to kind of
that
keep
helps.
your sanity.
Yeah, because those are my heroes, right? Because I
Yeah.
can't imagine that. And so
Who was your team?
baseball, it's the Cardinals,
Okay.
St. Louis Cardinals. Yeah, because I'm from Missouri.
Makes sense.
Yeah, so, and they're always decent enough to root for. Are you Astros?
No, baseball was kind of
Right.
I
Most
just
people it
grew up
is.
like because I was a military kid, so I moved
Oh.
around a lot.
Okay.
We got the Dallas Cowboys newsletter, so I was really focused on the Dallas Cowboys. We got it every month, and
Oh, wow,
we
nice.
would read it when there was before the internet, like you said, before
Mhm.
YouTube. But baseball,
Yeah.
I
A lot
like
of people
the
are
game,
that way.
but I don't have a team
Yeah.
necessarily.
I'm that way with basketball. I love basketball, but we never had a team.
Yeah.
And so, I like that the Clippers are doing well. That's exciting, and I watch. I kind of watch the highlights. Are fun.
Sure.
So football, you still a Cowboys fan?
I'll own it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
it's,
fun.
I
I'm
haven't loved the last couple of years, but
right. Yeah, I'm Green Bay. Green Bay was always my football team.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Cardinals are really where my sort of blood is. I mean, I really, in terms of if you gave me one team, that's my one.
You'll take them.
Yeah,
Nice.
for sure.
All right. So my last question, I'm asking this of everybody that comes on the show, or
Mhm.
trying to, if I remember, is what's the most unexpected thing you've discovered along your road?
My whole life road.
Yeah. This road, the whole road. What was unexpected for you, your discovery?
That I met the love of my life when I was 20 years old, and
Huh.
and that I'm only now realizing how amazing that is, that we've maintained such a solid relationship for more than 20 years. That I mean, my marriage is the thing I'm most proud of. I think if I could choose, like, winning an Academy Award and being the most famous actor in the world, or the relationship that I had, I'd choose the relationship. I mean, you can't die and not feel that kind of love. I mean, I'm so happy, so thankful that I had that at such a young age, and how lucky I was. How lucky I was to find that so young, and I have no regrets. We got married when we were like 24, 23, 24.
Wow.
So
That's a great answer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that love is really never thought that was going to be.
And when it gets tested like this, when
Yeah.
you have an experience, I think.
The one, when they had the shot at my arm, like, we doing this? 7% chance you're gonna die. We doing this? And I was like, Molly, my first reaction was like, call my wife. Someone needs to call my wife. I can't make this decision by myself.
Right.
you know? And then the cruel answer is like, here, newsflash, Molly doesn't die, you die.
Right.
So it's fun to have someone with you on the jury, but it really is a journey for one,
It is.
you know?
No.
And that's the cruel reality for a codependent like me to be like, oh,
Oh,
wait, what?
it's all right.
All right.
I'll take it. But, you know, like you said earlier, just having that support, whether it was your brother, whether it's your wife, whether it's
Yeah.
your kids, all these people surrounding you, I think it's what makes it bearable. I mean, really.
Totally.
And
you know,
what makes it fun.
yeah, the crazy lifestyle and the crazy life that I have, it's really evened me out. If I hadn't have met somebody and I just gone crazy single through my 20s, even when I first started out, you know, when I was waiting tables, all that stuff, I had her. So, you know, I who knows where I'd be, what ditch I'd be in. So, you know, it's funny because a lot of my songs are about like unrequited love. And I really think for me, it's always, that's a metaphor for other things I'm feeling. I mean, my love, my unrequited love, my problem relationship has always been more my career. You know, it's
Right.
like all these relationships that you had, like all the TV shows I've been on that end, that are awesome for a while and then they end. You know what I mean? Each one of those is a relationship that goes bad.
It's
You
like
know?
one constant breakup after another.
Exactly.
Dumped again.
Yeah. You know, or show gets canceled or whatever it is. Yeah. And you're just like, ugh. So that's where I've felt the unrequitedness, but no, not in my personal life.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. So, Rob, before we go, just let me ask you 2 more questions. I think I said that before. I'll ask 2 more questions.
Yeah.
I'm just going to keep going.
So 4 more.
Yeah, right. What's coming up next for you?
Well, you know, I just I made a movie about a year ago, finished it about a year ago, and called The Sidekick. It's a 30-minute film with Ron Livingston and Lizzie Kaplan, a bunch of great people.
Nice.
Jordan Peele from Key and Peele is in it.
Okay, yeah.
So it's a great film that I'm really proud of, and we just we're working on a distribution deal, so it'll be available online. We just finished the like doing the film circuit thing.
Okay.
So now it'll be available to see online, yeah. So I'm kind of finishing that up, and then you know I'm auditioning for pilots and kind of looking for my next thing, and again I think the right thing will happen when it's ready, when I'm ready. You know, kind of looking at auditions right now is kind of a batting practice. You know, getting back in.
Yeah.
So yeah. So waiting on what the next thing's going to be beyond that.
All right. And if people want to get a hold of you, where's the best place to connect with you?
So I'm on Twitter at Rob Benedict, ROBBENEDICT, and my film is has a website, thesidekickproject.com. Loudon Swain is www.loudonswain.com, and yeah.
Perfect. I'll put all those in the show notes, and
Awesome.
people can find you.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, thank you so much for sharing your journey.
Thanks for listening.
Super appreciated, and hope to catch up again.
Thanks, buddy, for sure.
All right. Thank you so much for joining me on the road today. Be sure to check out the show notes at discovertheroad.com.